RSA 2025 in San Francisco. I am delighted to welcome my guests, Andrew Grealy, who's the head of Armis Labs, and Michael Freeman, head of threat intelligence at Armis. Welcome back to Bad Actors, guys.
Oh, thank you. It's great to be here.
So I wanted to talk about an event we held this morning, a media and analyst event at the Four Seasons, Dark Web Detectives, we're calling it. This is the second time we've done this event. In a snapshot, what were the big findings you announced today?
So we had quite a number of unique findings that we were able to explain to the analysts. In unique ways, we're seeing AI being used by the threat actors themselves. So some of the key findings were how when a company starts using these coding tool sets to actually help them create code, the AIs are actually hallucinating to the point it's introducing a large number of vulnerabilities into the code itself. So that was one key finding that we're able to identify and explain what we're seeing and how threat actors are actually taking advantage of that.
And on that hallucination, it's also packages. So you look at like 34% by OpenAI, 37 by Claude. So what the code's doing, like everyone's using vibe coding and cursor and all those tools out there, and it's happening two different ways. One is it's giving them packages that don't exist, and threat actors are using, it's called slop squatting, and they're using that package, creating a package that the AI is generating and capturing that package, then calling a real package and putting like C2 channels behind it.
So for those that might not know the technical terminology that you're using, what's the impact of that? What will that enable someone to do?
Well, if you think of organizations today, they're doing a lot of line of business applications. So that allows a threat actor to easily get into the application pipeline of internal applications and go out and compromise internal applications instead of just external, right?
And the damage would be what? A total sort of downgrade of a system? Would they take something offline?
C2 channels, exfiltration, espionage, ransomware, like
so this
all
is
of the
bad
above.
actors of state nation attacks, right? It's not individual criminal gangs, it's sponsored by state nations.
No, this can be anyone doing this. That's the hard thing about this, is that anyone can ask ChatGPT for this code, what package, and find it, register that package in GitHub, call the real package, and put malicious code in there, and they don't know any different.
And is that whole vector has been sped up because of AI?
Yeah, 100%.
Okay.
Like we gave a talk at the start about, in the old days, there was an NPN vulnerability for Node, and what that meant, you could put a specific number higher than the internal number a company had, and you could compromise, and threat actors focus on that. And it took them probably a good 3 to 4 months to work out how to do this pipeline. And the difference is with this one, anyone and his dog on the internet can do this.
But what would they get from that? Once they've corrupted the system, they've got access. Is it ransomware? Is it holding them to account, getting money, infiltrating data? What's the benefit from them other than disruption?
Yeah, it's all of the above.
Okay.
It's whatever action objections they want, right? So a lot of people are after money, right? Money's a motivating factor. But the thing there is being detected is really hard. Right, and it's a natural process for them, and we're told like everyone that's using, and it even gets worse than this. Everyone that's using like Copilot, like every AI generation tool for generating code as well, is putting known vulnerabilities in the system. So they don't even know by doing all the coding that they're generating these vulnerabilities, and it's going out there again, right? So
self-perpetuating the problem.
And AI coding is getting more and more, and people are doing like solo entrepreneur. People are reducing the amount of developers you see everywhere in the news are saying, hey, we're going to cut our software engineering team by half. And that means all this AI is generating these vulnerabilities. So what do threat actors think about and do? They see what the AI is generating as bad code, and now they know how to exploit it. So put it on the internet, this application away gets compromised.
So begs the question then, how did you go about setting this all up? How did you find them? And what does that data enable you to do in terms of preventing these things from happening in the future?
So we originally found it whenever we were doing a test of the code that AI would generate and identifying the vulnerabilities that we'd find in that code. We were building an internal tool right now that would actually go through our source code, find these type of vulnerabilities. And we started seeing certain types of categories of vulnerabilities that these AI tools were introducing. And so we started looking at that and looking at our intel, and we'd find that there are certain threat actors were seeing the same thing we were. And when we started looking at it and going, okay, these threat actors are seeing the same thing we are, are they taking advantage of it? And then we started looking into their processes and identifying they were actually taking advantage of this also. So if we know we found it, they're finding the same thing and doing the same thing we are. They're just doing it for nefarious purposes now.
Now, part of the sort of early warning engagement that you do for us is sort of honey traps and sort of monitoring before sort of shutting anything down. What's the benefit of that? What does that give you in terms of information and behavioral changes that you can leverage for later?
So what we do is we look for the intelligence to tell us what the threat actors are actually working on. And we rank and categorize that based on a method called the admiralty score, which basically means if it's a really high A1 source, if their bad guys are working on something, we need to publish it quickly because we know they're going to use it. Sometimes we'll get intel that may not be a good quality source all the time. So we need to validate that what these threat actors are talking about is actually real in order to actually be able to do this. So we have some deception technologies that we put out there based upon the intel of what business verticals and technology stacks, as well as geographic areas we need to put them at. And it helps us to validate some of the intel we're seeing, but it also helps us to identify new things that maybe the intel is not showing us too, for validation purposes.
Interesting. Now, a couple of months ago, Armis sort of launched its new division, Armis Federal, and you are not allowed to say the work that you do, obviously, for the federal government and governments of the Five Eyes around the world. But without sharing that information, how critical is it that governments get ahead of some of these threats now and start leveraging the information that you and your team provide as part of an early warning capabilities that is sort of left of boom, as you call it, Andrew, which enables us to get much more advanced notification of the threats that could be posed?
It's very critical that and the government has realized that they need to get very proactive nature instead of a reactive nature. And I think a lot of companies are starting to realize that too. They're just trying to figure out how to do it. And thankfully, a lot of the customers we have under the federal side of things realize when you become more proactive in nature and you take advantage of the information coming in that is not predictive in nature, but actual based upon real world information, it helps you really figure out where to focus and prioritize your work efforts at, and identify where you can reduce your cost as well as your risk by doing that. And that's where the federal side of things that we're really seeing our customers on that side really learn to take advantage of that.
Yeah, so if I give a couple examples there, like, Volt Typhoon, Salt Typhoon, all those we were way early. Right, they were 2021 vulnerabilities. We had them, right? So we've done about 631 different times earlier than CISA of showing how CISA Kev of these are the things you need to patch early.
And
right?
This is months or indeed
months and years, right? And
ahead.
then 1,800 that they haven't seen, and we've seen with our own eyes. Right, so if you think of that way, and if I think of how the world's working today, right, we spent this big hump of money for, we can only detect, we couldn't prevent. So we spent EDRs and a huge amount of money, and still we're in the $5 million cost of getting compromised today. And what early warning's about is saying, hey, we get early in the path of threat actors, therefore we know this to be true. Go patch, mitigate, put other controls in place to protect against these threats. And then you're not in an incident. You're not on a weekend, on a Christmas, right? Where I've been in enough incidents in my life that being that left of boom, being able to do that and have that proactive vulnerability intelligence, a proactive view of the world, allows organizations to stop the threat, stop that attack. And if I put in another perspective, right, there's malware like Mariah and all that has a 65% chance ever detected. Polymorphic changes all the time, right? We find out with Mariah what weaponized vulnerability they put in each time. So we give customers a heads up, fix this now, and then no more compromises from that. So
you don't have to worry about detecting the polymorphic changes that's happening. And that goes back to one of the other things we showcased this morning is a tool set we got our hands on by a threat actor that uses AI in a unique process. And what he does is pull all the different detection rules as they're being developed that are open source, and a tool set that actually figures out mitigations to counter those detection rules, how to actually deceive those detection rules in place so he can use those in his campaign.
So they're starting to change their behavior in light of tools that are created, but then you're having to rework that again to counter his counter.
Well, so I think it's slightly same sort of way, but one different important part is that what they're doing is against the detection side. If we stop the threat at the start,
Yes.
all those tools that are getting circumvented, it's called defense evasion, they're getting evaded, they didn't have to worry about because we'll already help you here.
But most organizations, and obviously there's lots and lots of people at RSA this year who are really struggling with the now factor of what they're trying to secure, the vulnerabilities that they're discovering, to do a massive mind shift into proactive to sort of security and thinking about things before they happen is a massive step change. How do you speak to customers or prospects that enable their thinking to change without the sheer volume of money that they would have to sort of put down to do that?
Yeah. So what we do on that side is we talk about your vulnerability management space. Right now, we have really two different ways to deal with it: is NIST score, what your CVSS score is. And if you take a look at the original publication of it 25 years ago, it says, do not use this as a measure of risk, but we have for 25 years. Then we went the predictive route with EPSS, where you're trying to predict what could happen. So when we're talking to customers who are drowning in all this type of work, they're trying to figure out what to do. And we come to them and say, if we could tell you what the threat actors are actually doing and help you prioritize and reduce your work effort based upon just what the bad guys are doing, would that be of value to you? And every single CISO we talk to goes, absolutely. And when we talk to the vulnerability management team, they look at it and go, I'm dealing with 3 to 4 million vulnerabilities I have to deal with. I got to figure out how to prioritize. I'm looking at all these different predictive approaches. If I can take this information, prioritize it with very early warning capabilities, specifically on what the bad guys are doing, it's a massive reduction of work effort for them. It helps them figure out really where to prioritize and what's actually important.
And the reason why it's also a mind shift is no one has that data today, right? And that's what Armis is. We're having that data and having that in Armis puts it in a great position because one, if you don't know what you have, you can't protect it. So Armis, first thing 101, this is what you have. The next is, hey, look at what threat actors are doing and what they're exploiting. Early warning. And great to see Early Warning won an award here for innovation. But we have early warning there. So then you're focusing on what's really what matters, right? Because no one has all time and effort. But if you focus what threat actors are doing, and that makes sense. And then to me, like early warning is knowing is half the battle. And then we have Viper on top, which is about taking all the risks, not just vulnerability, misconfigurations, code, ground to cloud, and then allowing you to do things fast and efficient meantime remediation. So doing that high pipeline of whole Armis's products puts organizations in a fantastic position to be able to secure and make their security posture one of the best in the world.
Amazing. Well, look, we've got a big week ahead. Lots only on day one, lots going on. Thank you so much for joining me today. I appreciate you.
Thank you.
All right, thanks. Love your work.